All right, I lost my co-chair.
You got down to data.
You got your own business to do too.
That's right, I got my own business. Hey, good morning, everybody. I'd like to convene our monthly, actually, it's gonna be our joint Public Works Finance. But for now, I'm gonna convene Public Works Committee. With that, I'd like to have a motion, please, to accept the minutes for our August 27th meeting. Thank you, sir. Do I have a second? Thank you, sir. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. First up, sewer district. Sir, the floor is yours for business at hand.
All right, yeah, so there's one item I wanted to bring up prior to the budget discussions. It is our PCAB building project. This project was brought up earlier in the year. We had a feasibility report done where we had some cost estimates done, and the goal was to put it in to the EFC round of financing and see where it lands. We weren't targeting any grants for this project because it's not really a water quality improvement project. It's more of an infrastructure improvement project. So best case scenario was to get 0% financing. We did qualify for 0% financing. I went over it with my commissioners. We would like to take the next step forward. Our current administration building is in need of repair. It doesn't meet several building codes. It's not large enough to house our current staff. Our chief operator is currently in a separate building, which was designed to be a storage room. We have plumbing failing. There's a whole list of things. We also recently received a $6.3 million grant on the other project going on at the plant. So the estimated cost of this from the feasibility report was $3.9 million. So long-term outlook compared to where we were a year ago is still a net decrease. On top of that, my ad valorem increase plan that I presented a month or two ago. My plan is to increase ad valorem tax revenue by 10% per year over the next 5 years. That would cover this project and every other project we have ongoing. So that being said, the next step, if we wanted to move forward, would be to go out to an RFQ. An RFQ is request for qualifications, where we would put our specs out and look for some sort of engineering or architectural firm to do the design and construction on the project. So what I'm asking the committee is to move forward and issue an RFQ for the project.
I could hold you there for a second. My apologies, everybody. We have a new member at the table. I'd like to just take a moment to introduce the newly appointed supervisor for the town of Dresden, Mr. Charlie
Tall.
Mr. Charlie Tall, sir. Welcome to the table. Thank you. So now you're into the fight. You start off with the septic system.
And I need to call finance store. Call finance store.
Maybe have us introduce ourselves, yeah. So he knows that.
So if we could, I'm Daryl Wilson. I'm the supervisor for the town of Putnam. We spoke on the phone. Nice to meet you, sir.
Jim Nolan, supervisor agreement.
Tim Fisher, board member.
That's White Creek, we're old friends already. Yeah.
Nancy Cudler, Cambridge.
We have solar systems down here.
See a boss supervisor for you. Nick Baker, Grable. John O'Dell, Whitehall.
Dan Shaw, East.
Brian Campbell, town of Hebron.
Sir.
I'm Dave O'Brien.
That's a Halloween.
You voted.
He's gonna stick with me.
Careful what you do there, right? Alva County Treasurer.
Melissa Fitch, County Administrator.
And you're up.
And Martindale County Attorney.
I've already. We've met.
Awesome. Well, welcome, sir. Thank you very much.
I guess I can say too, I'm you may have known, but I'm the executive director for the sewer district.
Not the septic tank. Although you might have one somewhere. So discussion on the RFQ. Questions?
I guess. I wanna explain, I was in the dark over this for a couple of months, but the sewer district is on their own, how would you explain that?
Don't
This is
try.
not county taxpayers that are doing it,
It's the district taxpayers. I
and
have
we
to-
are overseeing it, right, you've got two of them over
Right,
here.
and we're going through the same process.
So a motion to go out to RFQ, motion, Tim, Passy. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. I believe we're on to the budget.
All right, the budget, staffing plan and travel plan are the three categories I'm looking at. Doesn't matter where I start, the preference.
Just tell us where you start page number.
Okay, yeah, so I guess that's one of the things I was gonna bring up, so.
102.
Yep, page 102, yeah, right at the top. Well, that's the second line, I guess, sewer district number 1 IDA. I don't know if you wanted me to go through it from top to bottom, or if you just want me to highlight some of the key areas I think are worth discussing.
Highlights, please.
Okay. So what you have is the sewer 1 and sewer 2 budget as requested. The first page and a half is the sewer 1 budget. Our sewer 1 district is the smaller district up around the airport. The sewer 2 is in the next couple pages there. Compared to last year, it's pretty straightforward. The lines are in essence titled what they're doing. What my goal this year was to decrease expense lines where I could. I figured I can discuss some of the comments with you today because I put in comments, things that I felt needed explaining or things that may have increased. So I could jump through those, starting at the top of page 102. That the sewer rents had to be increased because there is a major project going on in sewer 1. It was a sewer improvement project where we did a lot of slip lining and manhole rehab, and the interest payment on the loan for that is the reason that we had to increase the revenues by a pretty good jump there. Moving down, the
Is that 30% is what you increased it? Cause you budgeted 123,000 last year and you're 175.
that makes sense because I mean,
Over
it's a
30%.
$50,000 interest payment.
So their sewer rent went up 30% in 1 year?
Yes, but we also, the total collection went up 30%, but each user's bill may not have gone up 30%. We also restructured the billing up there, so instead of going by usage and square foot of building, which is the way it was for the past couple decades, we now go by a unit system, which we kind of copied from Queensberry, which goes by lot size and water usage. So we think it's more equitable.
So some, if they didn't go up 30%, then some went up 50, 60%.
Right. The way it was targeted is the bigger user, the bigger water users and lot sizes, I guess, would probably have gone up on the higher end.
How many rent payers are there? IDA.
100 and something, I believe. I don't have the exact number. I can get that to you for that.
No, just curious. No, but there's over 100.
I think it's somewhere around 100. I don't want to quote myself on that though.
Yes, sir.
So is the slip lining done up there?
Yeah, just as of last week.
The important thing to remember is that those are old pipes. There's a lot of infiltration going in there, so there's excess capacity on the unsolved plant.
Yep.
And with the slip lining, a lot of players expand quite a bit because of that excess water going through there. So even though the rates are gonna go up, they're gonna come down in some cases because a lot of users are not gonna pay the infiltration anymore.
Well, they're paying their sewer bills based on their water usage, so that should stay, depending how much water they're using.
Yeah.
But utility costs should go down from not having to pump so much groundwater.
Your bill to Queensbury should go down in essence too.
Theoretically.
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 And the win there also is it came in extremely under
Right.
budget, so.
Yeah, so this interest payment, Al, correct me if I misspeak, was based on a $1.5 million loan. We're actually only gonna need about a third of that moving forward. So the project ended up costing a third of what we approved here and anticipated it would cost. So
That
that,
additional money was repaid, so the interest payment next year will be.
So if that's the case, though, do you need the extra income to make that work if there's no interest on the loan now? Because that's over a 40% increase.
there is interest on the loan this
He still has a
year.
loan.
Oh, it's different than the one you mentioned earlier. You're right. But 40% is a huge.
And we're out of cash, he doesn't have a choice.
Do we know what that is going to be? Like before we looked at a per day basis, remember it wasn't, when you go 40%, the per day rate will even be different to the actual home.
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, before we divided that out to say what it would cost, you know, per day a year. But I don't know what the average bill will be when we raise it 40%.
Keep in mind too, like I should have said earlier, sewer one is all commercial,
That's all,
right?
still a big bill for somebody.
So hypothetically, if they're using a lot of water, they should be making money, right? Because they're doing their business.
But is it, in previous system, there was no ad valorem on that, was there?
Right.
Yeah,
So that's on there now because they need the money for maintenance costs in the future.
yeah, there was no debt up there. Now there will be. So there's a capital cost. We're not calling it ad valorem up there, but it's similar.
Any other questions?
Just some other, notes that aren't really that in-depth, just explain, if a number may not have, looks like it makes sense because we spent more this year and I'm budgeting a lower number next year, I just kind of explained why, and that usually means the costs were high this year, but they won't be the same next year. In this case, it was consultant expenses due to the project. So Queensberry water charges and benefit taxes, that is the amount we pay Queensberry. So the bulk of our revenue up there actually is an expense that the district pays to Queensberry because all of our sewer water up there goes across the county line over to Queensberry. And we pay them for that. That's sewer one. As Al said, we have had issues up there, cash flow issues. We're trying to resolve that. It's not really anything to do with this budget purposes, but I thought I'd make that noted. The other notes here. Oh, so moving forward, halfway through page 103 starts the sewer district 2 budget. What we're looking at there is another 5% rate increase. That's the same we did last year. After discussing with my commissioners, we don't want to go more than 5%. The issue that we run into year to year is we end up budgeting a deficit. This year, it's going to be around a $301,000 deficit we're budgeting. That sounds like a large number, but the last 2 years were $291,000 and $380,000. So it's not new news. The increase was pretty much eaten up this year due to the fringe benefit increases. By increasing our sewer rents 5%, we're going to be taking in another $96,000, and our fringe benefit increases have gone up $82,000. So we're not really gaining on some of our expenses by doing the 5%. So the solution to that would maybe look at a higher increase, which we want to revisit next year, but there's no way to guess whether the benefits will keep going up year after year. Most likely will, but I guess the saying as it may be very real that next year we'll be looking at 10% or higher, depending on where we stand.
We got a question here.
Oh, yeah.
And this might be more for Al than you. And with the sewer, your sewer rents? I see even in sewer 1 and sewer 2, they're both the same. Is they're running 50 to 75% the intake versus the expense going out. I'm looking at. So there's a lag. Who covers that lag? You have, who floats you between collection and payout? Is that you with internally? I mean, you have enough money that,
So if this is not your asking, let me know, but any bills we wouldn't collect throughout the year, we would be made whole by the county in January, right now.
not really, that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is like,
Is there fund balance to keep everything?
Yeah,
cash
like
flow?
your-
Short cash.
Cash on.
do you use cash or does the county float? In between, like your rent was, you've collected 48,000 in October.
Oh, so,
By up to
yeah.
October. So you're behind 120,000. And when you get down to your sewer rent too, it's even a bigger number. And I know you have to put a payroll every 2 weeks.
Right, so I can speak to the sewer one, that's where we've been having the issues where you're leading, because we don't have the cash to pay our bills. So what we're trying to plan for next year, if to get ahead of it, we may borrow to a loan from sewer 2 to sewer 1, you know, for a small amount, so it doesn't benefit, or doesn't impact sewer 2, but we would have enough cash in sewer district 1 to pay our bills. But on the sewer 2 side, if we're short, I haven't experienced that. I don't know if we've ever been short to pay our bills there, but we have a fund balance or a loan from the county, maybe an option at that point if we got there.
Okay, thank you.
It's a good question, though. It just demonstrates he doesn't have a whole lot of time.
Well, that's what I was wondering. It looked like you're always hand to mouth if it just into your rent collection.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many users in sewer 2, the revenue is pretty consistent. Sewer 1 is a different animal where, because of the unit structure that's based off of usage and size, if one of the large, you know, businesses, commercial properties doesn't pay their bill, that's what leaves us short. That's why we increased the late fees to try to encourage people to pay, and if we end up having to pay late fees, at least we'll break even on that.
John, you had a question?
I don't know, a question, a comment, or none of my business. But where in this world, sewer district 2, residential mainly, I'm assuming there's gotta be retirees and older people there. And you're speaking 5% this year, maybe looking at 10% next year. How can you afford, how can the people that live there afford that to keep it going forward?
Yeah, I mean, my answer to that is we're doing 5% when realistically I could be recommending 10 or 15 this year to try to make it more sense. And we're already budgeting a $300,000 deficit at a 5% increase. It's just,
And that's kind of where I was coming from with my question earlier, Don. If I remember right, I think Matt Hicks said it was less than $2 a day. His whole bill for the year or something when he figured it out. So I don't know.
Well, we got,
If you're
we
going
got
from
the
$2
same sewer and water
right.
district in Whitehall, and now they wanna go to zones, and I know somebody that paid $407 a quarter for water. And I know there wasn't no leaks or anything there, but when's it gonna stop? And this is an 89-year-old retiree. Where are they gonna come up with the money to continue?
Right, and I think it's a lower rate than you guys have. I don't think it's quite that high.
yeah,
So I think it's a lot.
We're
So if
right
you're
on
going from
par.
$2 a day to $2 and, 10 cents a day, it might not be a huge, and that's where I was trying to get, I was just around this. I was looking at one instead of two.
The rates are competitive. Look,
Yeah,
yeah, I think I'm gonna try to pull my memory, but I believe an average 3-bedroom house pays around $720 per year in our district, and that is average, like, you know, other municipalities.
I pay about 180 every 6 months, and it's me, my wife, and all my kids' laundry.
Well, yeah, it's more expensive than Whitehall, and I tell you that.
yeah.
You don't sound
Well,
like
that's why I was trying to put that kind of out there.
yeah, that,
You're just the bearer of
So
bad
we-
news.
Right, we've been behind in this area for so long. We finally had the right guy to fix it. We're getting there.
How many days you wear the same clothes?
And,
You're sitting close, you close.
well, some remember, what we lose We're losing the sewer district conversation here as economies of scale. So we're fighting that a little bit and we're fighting the uphill battle of the capital investments that have to be made to keep the sewer district compliant and viable for the future. So, I mean, it's an uphill climb. And John, we can't necessarily have a good answer for that individual who's on fixed resources with the rate increases unless unless we come up with a more creative way of managing the sewer district. I don't think anybody has that. Yes, ma'am.
Two things. One is the way it looks as it, there's no debt service, that they each have to pay.
That's a different part of the budget. That's the capital. Or,
But that's included in the rent.
No.
no, it's,
In their
that'd be the
tax.
ad valorem part of their bill.
So that's included on their tax band, and the operating is billed separately, correct? And then
Correct.
the other thing is last year they talked about, because the special districts, there's no exemptions in special districts. People pay no matter what their income is. And so last year at the state, they were talking about supporting and helping the people that live in water and sewer districts that were under a certain income. And I don't know where that's at, but it may be an important point forward that the lady you're talking about that's living by herself on a income. Is there a way to help assist her to be able to pay that bill, to keep a sewer district running? Because you need the sewer districts, just because of lot size and property assessment values. But you also need to help those people that can't afford to pay their water and sewer bills. I'll try to find that information and bring it back, because I know it's something we want to think about. Encouraging them to do that, because it can be important to keep these districts alive, but not at the expense of having someone be taken out of their homes.
Dana, yes, sir.
So the
Dan.
low income household water system program. We have a number here.
The only danger with that is the phrase that goes through my head, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you.
Well, if they pay your water bill.
It usually doesn't
you don't have
work.
food for- no food for them.
Yeah, Sam, I'm sorry, Sam, you had your.
Yeah, that's, your commissioners, I look at this and approve the budget you submitted, correct? Yes. So they're aware of all the questions we're asking. They know the answers to all. It's not a surprise.
Right, and I found when I was over halfway down, page 105 is the tax collection. That's our ad valorem, the real taxes per county. That our next point, we had another question, but that's what I appreciate.
Cassie, you had
I
your
was
hand?
from another perspective, so you're saying like $700 a year for a water bill? If a person who didn't live in the sewer district had to drill their own well at 14 or 15,000 at $700, that's 20 years. So there's other perspective.
Yep.
Just because you think that's an expensive thing at $700 a year when some of you said it was less. Somebody had to drill one at 15,000, you're over 20 years getting your money back at $700. And somebody's fixing their stuff.
Right.
So
Put a new pump on
electricity
there.
around the pump,
Yeah.
replace the pump when it's gone, all those things. So that's a flip side perspective.
Yeah, as Dave said, plus the septic. We've actually had a lot of interest lately from people that are near sewer lines, but their predecessors or past property owners decided not to connect. Now they're all looking to connect, and fortunately, it's not that easy for us. They have to, petition us for an extension because we can't just connect people either because we're at capacity. So people are scrambling because septics and everything are very expensive to do yourself.
Dave, sir.
Also remember, Kevin, the HFO project, storm separation, there's a lot of water that's gonna be separated there, that's on the sewer plant. Probably areas in Port Edward may be dealt with the same reasons, storm separation. And once the storm separation comes out, that should reduce the water flow going through there, increase capacity, so if we have businesses or expansions of homes, want to come in place, then we won't have to look at increasing the capacity of sewer plant, will be much more expensive than sewer separation. As some towns are finding out when they're looking at sewer system.
And we're in the middle of that project, so it's gonna be a while before we realize. But these are all good questions. You all have to be able to respond to, taxpayers. when we get out there on the street.
All the bird maintenance.
Cool, yeah, so I'll keep moving along the same topic of rate increases, the ad valorem capital, tax recovery, whatever we're gonna, how you wanna view it, we were looking at increasing that 10%, that's part of the plan I came up with this summer. I think it makes sense where it's not a major impact. What I found after running the numbers, after coming to the district, is we weren't taking in enough tax revenue to pay for our projects we already had ongoing, let alone moving forward with further improvements. So 10% per year so would cover every project we have ongoing right now, and a couple of ones that we may want to move forward with, including the one we just approved for RF2. For reference, in the ad valorem, there's not really any sewer taxes to look at around here because we're the county district, but some of the neighboring water tax rates were 86 cents per $1,000 of assessed, and we're still below that right now. So for perspective, our sewer tax rates are astronomical. Yeah, there was another note here just on our compost budget. I thought you guys might appreciate it, just on how that's kind of structured. The expenses of our compost budget are divided amongst the county sewer district and the village of Lake George, because we both bring sludge to the compost, and depending how much sludge each side brings is what we budget on a percentage basis for next year. So, at this time of year, if out of the total sludge, if we brought 60% of it there, we would budget that we're going to pay 60% of the budget next year. And it's usually around 50-50, but it seems equitable, and it's been that way for a while. Moving forward to page 106 towards the bottom. One of my headaches this year was our consultant line. We had a project developed through Irving Tissue that was unanticipated. All of those costs are going to be reimbursed, but we had to get a lot of engineering review and inspections done where we use our consultant line for that. The bigger issue is we're in a lawsuit, as everybody is aware, where we already had to move, I believe, $40,000 to $50,000 to that line to pay for that. I don't know if that's going to spill over into next year, so it's a very hard number to budget. That's where I came up with that 50,000. I increased it a little bit compared to last year to try to cover any unforeseen expenses. Insurances, I increased a little bit. It's kind of another one I put a note because it's a little bit of shooting from the hip and just looking at the past 5-10 years, it just seems to go up every year, but I don't have anything in writing saying it's going to go up.
It's a safe bet.
Right.
Yep.
And then another note on this bond council was an expense you can't really plan for because you don't really know where you're going to end up project to project and bond to bond. Yeah, the other items, like I said, I cut where I could, based on the past couple of years and what I think we're going to be doing next year. My two large expenses or asks this year, like an equipment or a vehicle field. It's really two pieces of equipment. Our biggest pump station, our Hudson Falls pump station, still has original pumps there. So they're a couple decades old. They've all been rebuilt several times. The issue when you're rebuilding pumps is, it's great, you save money, but when you keep doing it over and over, you're never going to be back to your original capacity. And capacity in this sense means not overflowing sewage to the river. It's pretty much that straightforward. If your pumps aren't doing what they could, there's a higher risk of water going through our overflows to the river. So I want to get a new pump, which means I have to get a check valve at the pump station. That is $60,000. That's one of my asks. The smaller ask is just a pump at our plant. We did a huge upgrade at our plant and some of the pumps were missed. Particularly a digested sludge pump. I don't think you guys want to know what that entails, but when those break down, I have guys come into my office and they're covered head to toe and you name it. So I'd like to, at least get one new one there, which is around $10,000. So those are my two asks, equipment wise, without going too overboard. I think they both make sense.
Any questions?
And those will be capital equipment purchases.
Need anything? Need-
If it passes in the budget, it's fine.
We're good. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'll have to go through procurement and do all that.
All
So
right. Any further discussion on the pumps besides the pallet of Tyvex?
Just a curiosity question. It seems like, the diaper wipes and all that, the way they market them, it's doing a number on all the sewer systems.
they're not flushable.
They're not flushable, but they flush them down anyways.
Yep.
And then you end up with a huge expense because you gotta repair the cost of.
Mainly at our smaller pump stations, yes. They do make pumps called grinder pumps that are kind of designed for that, but in a lot of cases, we don't have grinder pumps set up, so.
I don't understand why we don't market more, that they should not be used, because they really are creating havoc
Yeah,
in so many different systems.
Right.
This-
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I have thought about that, maybe a mailer with our next set of bills or something, I don't know if people would read them, but maybe a couple would, and
They're even aware.
Right.
Even though it says it on the. Would they be
They aren't
willing to
reading
give it up?
that, so why would they read a flyer?
I mean, a lot of it is word of mouth where people have issues with their sewer laterals. That's the first place it might plug into your line, which is gonna be the homeowner's expense, So if that happens, the word kind of spreads. I think a lot of people know the flushable wipes aren't so flushable anymore. When they first came out, everybody thought they were great, but getting out a little bit, but I do agree, we could probably
It's the
market
cost-
it a little bit more.
It's just the cost of savings.
Yeah.
and the headache. Poor guy coming in at the grinder home. We didn't make his day of that.
Sue, make a motion, DNA now.
Or then we upgrade the pump to a grinder pump, which is a little bit more.
What is the difference between a grinder pump price and your street pump?
Well, so it's definitely gonna cost more because there are more components. Usually underneath the impeller that spins and pumps the water is gonna be a little like metal cutter. That'll chop things up before it gets stuck in the impeller. That's the idea. Price wise, I don't know. I think it's significant. I think it's probably double, like on a residential.
And electricity usage would probably be higher too to run it. Well, I would agree, believe or no? It's more power. Well, that's what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
to run a grinder.
Big man.
Yeah, I would think so. I don't.
Yeah.
No, every one of your people over there has their pumps. You're still responsible even though they got their private pump, correct?
Half and half. It's split. We have some that have pumps at their house.
Yeah.
And then we have ours, which are constantly getting caught because of the weight. And we have above ground pump that we are dealing with right now, whether to go underground or exploring ideas on how to keep that safe. Because we now have full-time residents, they're pumping frequently in the winter, freezers.
Right, I do know our residential grinder pumps that we're putting in are around $6,000. I just don't know, the not grinder pumps, all of ours are grinders.
And you rebuilt a lot of yours. I know that.
I do.
You're gonna
Bill's
need.
done a great job.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's my budget as requested. Are there any other questions that? If not, I can go to staffing plan.
Any other questions? Keep moving, sir.
So our 2025 staffing plan, me being here a little over a year now, I think there are changes that make sense. Some of them are based on needs, some are based on what I think makes sense structure wise. Diving into the need portion, I bring it up time to time where we're struggling to find operators, particularly our senior operator, but we also have an opening now just for a normal licensed operator. We're not getting any qualified applications. I can't say applications anymore because people are just clicking submit on Indeed. We're getting a ton of those, but none of them have the actual license that we need. Our senior operator's been vacant for over 9 months now. And we have already increased that salary to try to attract applicants. What that license means, for those who don't know, you have to work at a plant of at least our size for about 4.5 years to get that license. So it's not like anybody can just get plucked off the street for that. What we're in essence trying to do is poach somebody from another plant or someone that maybe that is traveling farther for work if he wants to work closer to home. But on top of that, we've had an operator position for a couple months now because we had to retire and we're just not getting anybody that has a license to apply. So I'm looking to increase the salaries for all of our operator positions. It's the operator, senior operator, compost operator, which are all in the same boat. And to keep the proper separation, I think it makes sense to increase the chief operator. Not as much as the other operators. It's looking at 2 grades for the senior, the operator, and the compost operator, then 1 grade for the chief, just so the senior doesn't get too close to the chief, and then I wouldn't be able to find a chief. Other than operator increases, I'm looking to remove a labor position from our compost facility. The compost facility used to be ran by 1 employee. For reasons I don't fully understand, it was changed to 2. The issue that from my business point of view, looking at compost is you're looking at the facility on how much it costs the district to treat your sludge, really on a per ton basis. And you compare that to going to a landfill. Landfills, our costs are rising as well, and it has its own headaches with approvals and testing you have to do. But our compost is pretty expensive right now to run on a per ton basis. So one of the things I was going back and forth on is getting rid of one of the positions there. What we would do is we would move the laborer from the compost facility over to the plant because we actually have a laborer opening. So we're not getting rid of anybody. They would switch departments, but then the compost budget would make more sense moving forward. Not only for us, for Lake George as well, because they're paying their share. If they decide to they want to start going to a landfill next year, we'd be in a tough spot. So I want to remove the labor from compost. I talked with the county administration, the safety department. We don't think it's a safety concern because of all the technologies out there now, like anything from life alerts to the cameras. Kind of a work in progress, but we're going to make it perfectly safe for the 1 person that's out there. It will be an operator, so they'll know what they're doing. And on top of that, I'm going to have one of our operators from our plant go out there for 2 hours every single day to kind of do the 2-man jobs if there are any. So we're kind of covering all of our bases there. And we'll be just saving money in the compost area of the budget.
Yes, Dan.
How close is the differential between landfilling it versus composting it now within your budget?
Last numbers I knew, we're paying a little over $200 per ton to do through our compost.
To get rid of it.
To get rid of it, through and through the way we're doing it. And a landfill is around 180 something per ton now. But we have employees, we have jobs where it's more eco-friendly doing compost. We can sell it to, there are other
So right now it's
non-monetary
cheaper,
factors, but
other than the other issues involved. It's actually cheaper to.
it'd be cheaper to go to landfill as of today's numbers. But, if we approve this, we'll be right in line. So
it'd be then the same price?
yes.
So you're still no.
We'd have to pay hauling. to get it to landfill though, if you look at that way.
Yeah, the
Extra
hundred and
cost.
eighty is usually like.
But only for our share, not for Lake George.
Right. But it'd still be a,
Yeah,
right now,
if-
transportation.
If we went out to bid to have somebody haul and dispose of it, you'd be around like 180, and that's last year's numbers, which that's going up as well.
Yeah, but then where would you take it landfill? Because if it's down in Gansford, that landfill.
I don't know.
Well, that's
We have to get
probably
approvals.
closer than taking it up on the, or the same distance to 196, so I don't think all it would be an issue.
I know Lake George has the option to go to that landfill, and they still are bringing their stuff to compost, so.
Well,
The price
it's
not
better
too
to
much
do,
better.
I'm not saying that, but dollars and cents.
And you're still after that grant
Which one is that?
for the sludge train?
Yeah, so we didn't get the big grant. We were hoping the 50% bill grant, but we're kind of push pause on that for now. That project, the payback was just too much, so. I think we're gonna be revisiting that probably next spring, try to apply for more for that. So other than
Charlie?
oh, sorry.
When we're operating with one operator and we have a down man, how long before it gets critical and how do we fill that?
So we would have to have one of our operators, they're all gonna be
They're all qualified?
cross-trained, I guess. It's part of the licensing procedure, I guess, like when a operator becomes licensed to run a wastewater plant, they learn the compost things as well. And we would in-house keep them cross-trained, so where if the compost guy was on a vacation, we would have to fill that void. He could be out a day here and there, it's not that much of an impact, but like long-term, we would fill it in. Yes, sir.
The situation like Dresden has up there. You're, would the town be responsible for hookups? Or could the landowner have private individuals come in and hook it up?
To our collection system, to our sewer
Yeah.
pipes. If they're in district and there's already a pipe there and like it's a vacant lot, they would build and it'd be their cost to connect to our main.
Would they pay you or could they get an outside contractor to come in and hook up?
No, they get a contractor. We ask for plans and how they're gonna do it and they pay a permit fee, which if they're in district is $1,000. That's like their cost to connect to us.
That would help. Quite a bit.
Thanks.
Yeah, there was an inspection process permit. Any other questions? Anything else, sir?
Yeah, so other than the operator changes, moving to the administrative side. We have 3 really administrative positions in the sewer district. There's myself, the executive director, there's an administrative assistant, and then there's an account clerk. That's kind of the way it's been for at least 5 years or so. I don't know prior to that. We also had a deputy director for the past 3 years or so, which I removed in this year, 2024. But moving forward, there have been situations prior to me being here where if one of the positions becomes vacant, there wasn't really enough cross-training and intertwining that the one position can take over the other's job duties and kind of keep things moving smoothly. The clerk position is dealing mostly with billing and payables, as well as the permit applications, the day-to-day items. I think what our account clerk is doing and what I would really like them to do moving forward is delving more into the senior account clerk job duties. So that being said, I want to change the position from account clerk to senior account clerk on a promotional basis. For the administrative assistant, they're typically handling everything administrative related at my discretion. I think the position needs more leeway, especially because not having a deputy director anymore. I kind of need a position that does things rather than it is like independent judgment. Yeah. I think that the position should be scheduling and evaluating all of the clerical staff, not just kind of like an assistant to the director. I think it just makes more sense structurally. Some of the key words and the differences from what we have and what I'd be looking for is, you know, I think the position should have a general understanding of county procedures. They should be monitoring and implementing county procedures, and instead of the big difference is instead of may assist, it's does, you know, it's the independent judgment. And the position I found that would fit what I'm looking for is office manager. So I'd be looking to get rid of the administrative assistant position and create an office manager position. Again, this will create the ability for all the administrative positions to be more intertwined and not skip a beat if there's vacations or vacancies. What I would look to do is make those positions promotional, because I don't want to get rid of any staff. I think we have a great staff, so it'd be a promotional position forward. So the operators and the administrative positions, there would be a grade increase of 2 grades, the chief operator 1 grade. With those increases, by removing the labor positions, and there were also sewer intern positions we had budgeted last year that didn't really pan out. And I don't really think they make sense, so I want to get rid of those positions. We would be decreasing the total salary by around $30,000 from last year to this year. And that $30,000 does not include removing the deputy director, which was another $35,000. So from 2024 adopted to what we're looking at this year would be a decrease around 65,000, with trying to retain some of our staffing and attract new candidates.
So those requests, thank you, Kevin, those requests will go to the personnel finance meeting in October, where we'll give a clear, I guess, description of everything you just asked for, but you just did a really good job. So
Okay.
thank you.
And I think most of the people in that combined committee are sitting here as well. So,
Do I go to that and like speak again?
You don't need to.
Okay.
do that.
yeah. Well, Kevin, thank you for the analysis and staff and realignment opportunities there, and promotional opportunities as well for growth. And we come out ahead on the budget side. Any questions for Kevin's staff realignment?
How come that doesn't have to be approved by this committee to send it to person? Because you're changing your staffing pattern. If you do it, doesn't it have to, I mean, I don't care.
All of the requests are-
Usually,
You don't have to.
All of this is just a recommendation of the budget officer. They're not actually action.
right.
You know, just going to personnel, so they all get looked at again.
Right, but I thought on the staffing pattern, it has to come out of committee.
If it goes to the staffing pattern change, but this isn't changing.
This is part of the budget.
We're not, this is just what they're requesting, and they're not even in the budget.
Okay, no, I'm just trying to
This
understand
is
it.
deciding whether they go in the budget or not.
In essence, the deficit would be less than these are approved, because it's a decrease in salaries.
Well, that's what I like to hear. I was gonna move, so.
Yeah, I present the budget as if we're moving forward as is, and then the staffing plan would obviously change some of the numbers.
And Kevin, I do want to see in front of the committee, I mean, we met with your department, your predecessor, I guess, maybe a couple years ago, trying to look at the staffing and trying to have succession planning, knowing that there were going to be issues filling positions.
Right.
So I think you've done a great job looking at those positions and looking to see what you need and to try to staff them. So, I mean, I personally have heard that there's been a huge improvement as far as the office goes and the communication with the county building. And so I think you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
with all that. So,
So in terms of timing, if you get back and hear this story again, it'll be remember that thing I briefed you in budget? Yep, we'll just say. Then you can move it.
Kevin, just out of curiosity, how many tons a year does the sewer plant produce of, that goes up to the compost?
Somewhere around 500.
500 tons?
Yeah. There's wet tons and there's dry metric tons.
great for cornfields.
Well, I was thinking at $20 a ton, you're not talking big money as far as if you went to the landfill versus trying, keep going, because it's a better route to go. But then dollars and cents is a big, is it worth it? And I think it is.
And a big part of it is also sustainability. Your landfills don't want sludge, they want money, but they don't want sludge. So you may be approved and then they can shut you out. So you kind of gotta have 3 landfills you're permitted to, because you gotta have a backup and a backup, it's a whole animal.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
experienced in my past life.
Just to give you a perspective, it's about 10-1 is the ratio to wet sludge to sand. That's what landfills have to contend with. So you take a truckload of wet sludge, you're gonna bring in 10 loads of sand.
To deal with it.
And they're cooking that for fertilizer, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is cooking, to a certain degree. But yeah, our end product is kind of a topsoily wood chippy mix that is safe to apply. We get people coming to buy it.
I think Hartford stopped the use of the human blood or waste for fertilizer, didn't they? Couple of years ago.
That was pelletized, I remember.
Yeah, but it's still the same shit.
No,
Source is the same.
they
It's not the
use
same, but
John,
came from the same.
John, they come where they got used to grinders, and so you get the baby wipes and those, aren't.
I just got the travel.
Okay.
I just want to say that, and Bob can agree or disagree, the time we've been here, sewer district has always posed different challenges. And when I first came, we all believed everything was great, and then that guy retired and we found out everything was a disaster. And this is the first time I've seen a plan with any foresight that it's actually moving forward. And I gotta thank the sewer district for being willing to step up and pay more money to get this on and move forward, because I think it's what we really needed, and I hope it continues to work out the best for all of us.
Travel plan, sir.
Yeah, so let's have a travel plan. It's about as straightforward as it gets. There are 4 trainings that we know of coming next year, 4 different employees. One of them's just the operator training that we were discussing. One of our operator trainees has to go away for a couple weeks next year at Sony Morrisville. So other than that, we have an annual conference that myself and my chief operator would love to attend for a couple nights. And then there's a 1-night dig safe course that I would love to send our collection supervisor to. So just 4 different trainings, a total of 9 nights. Yeah.
So do we have to prove that?
Yes, please.
A motion to accept. Thank you, Ken. Second, Lance. Any other discussion on travel plan? Yes, sir.
All this has been approved by the townships already, correct?
Yes. Yes. I 95% of the time I go to the commissioners first, the way the meetings line up. If there's anything emergency that comes up in between, I'll let the commissioners know, and then I'll bring it to you first, and then I'll go there after. But I'll make that clear to you if they haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Kevin, thank you, sir. So everybody knows I purchased insurance against this meeting going beyond 12 o'clock.
I thought it was 11:30.
Sucker bet.
Huh?
11:30.
Well, that's go.
It sounds better yet.
Let's go 11:30.
Clearly, you finished carpool then.
So I did purchase insurance.
I'm sure my computer's gonna die.
Your place of insurance might go up.
All right, it's a sunk cost already, so you have to stay until 12.
Me or them?
Yes, you're welcome to join us. Welcome.
All right, good morning, everybody. Am I the last one? Would you say
Yes, ma'am.
DPW to
Debbie,
last?
I just like to say that your painting crew came to gravel and the job they did on the road was really, really professional.
Oh, thanks.
I think it was better than a lot of the contractors hired in the past.
Oh,
Well, they
You got the
practiced in
learning.
Hebron, so.
Oh, they got things figured it all out. He's right.
Still going to the dirt road, does it?
Right. No, but the job was really good, right on the lines, no overspray. I was very impressed.
We'll keep them on that crew. They'll be delighted, I know.
Yeah. Well, that's got a new machine, is that a new truck?
Well, it's not new, it's older than me, probably.
Oh, okay, never mind.
You did a good job.
Good, thank you.
So we're gonna start off with the business at hand, so we can keep that moving.
So you have the auction list?
Yes.
So we need to declare it surplus, unless you have any questions on it.
I'll move that.
Thank you. Second by Lance. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Next up, we have state snow and ice contracts. So the state, we plow for the state on certain routes, and they pay us. In 2019, it was a 5-year contract. So in it, it says we can extend it for another 5 years, so they would like to do that. Along with that, there's 2 supplemental agreements for 2 different years that were not passed. They didn't send it to us for last year and the year before that. Basically, they take a 3-year average every year, and we get paid 2/3 of that, no matter if it snows or not. And because that number changes, that's why we have to pass a resolution every year, recognizing that it's not the same number as year. So we need to authorize the chairman to sign these agreements and pass those 2 resolutions.
I see, second by Lance. Questions? Dan?
We've discussed this before, and I just want to clear in my mind. Is there an escalator in this, or how do you deal with it? How do you get your cost to reflect any increases? Like cost of sand or salt, well, salt, you don't do sand, I don't think, do you? Any on any, but on
It's a time and
salt.
materials contract.
Oh, it's time and, so that's how you're covered. Okay.
Nate?
On, state roads, like, say 22A, they take precedence over county roads. You know, if you have a snowstorm, and, you know, and all the roads are covered at the same time, will the state road be taken care of before county road?
No, not necessarily, because everybody has their routes. And there's nobody, well, hopefully nobody ever has to cover more than one route. So if it's snowing on a state route and not on a county route, the state route might, that would be the only time. But it's, everybody has their own routes, so no. But the state usually calls us out.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm not gonna look it up, but I seem to recall in the budget number was down a little bit for the state road contracts this year.
Yep.
Are you doing less roads or
No, it's just the average,
less?
the 3-year average.
You're planning on not snowing.
Oh, yeah, the woolly bear says it won't snow.
All right.
And one thing,
No, he's like, yeah.
The good news is that if it does snow, then you have to pay, so the numbers just have to match.
and that's one thing Brian always says, that's really it's money in, money out, so if X comes in, X goes out, X plus Y.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure before I signed it. We hadn't changed by number of miles.
Oh, no,
All right,
same routes.
weather related, thank you.
Any other questions?
David, is my memory that we do have a markup on the snow, right? The reimbursement on that's a little bit more than cost.
I don't know about that. I mean, I'll check, but I don't.
It's in the contract, it's nothing secret.
Yeah, I know we've done well on our stockpiles, with usage, so that's been good. And we have created, so just so everybody knows, we've created some efficiencies, at least with the northern end of the county. Putnam's taken over County Route 1 in its entirety, for plowing, maintaining during, because we gotta travel that road anyway to get to a town road at the end. It just made sense. In terms of priority, you know, we communicate and work together because for us, 22 is the priority. We can get the, you know, the side roads as we can, but we have a lot of people travel that 22 to get to and from work. So just depends on the situation.
Will construction be done before winter comes?
Yes, well, end of October.
Are they all out of Putnam yet?
Yes and no. They're done, destroying roads, hopefully.
Well, it's still on our road.
Yeah, they're working on the area right next to the lake, the railroad tracks. So they gotta transition from marine to terrestrial. And once they get that transition done, then, you know, and the normal line work, you see the folks in the confined space working down there to test the lines. After that, we'll be done, but that's gonna be later in the year, possibly the spring, where everything's, you know, the man covers or access panels are closed up and ready to go. So, but they're supposed to have all the trench line filled back in, temporary paving, or the paving done, and the guardrails up by the end of October. That's their goal. They'll be in the rail lines, though. Just so everybody knows, they'll be accessing it going in and out of the rail bed. Any other questions for the, yes, sir?
I did have an opportunity to talk to Josh yesterday. They're still targeting being done by April of 2026.
Yes, sir, John.
Referring to what Al asked about, so that's, the little bit of profit we get for that is in the contract with the state contracts, right?
I haven't read anything about a markup for salt, but I'll check.
Okay.
Okay. So do I have a motion? Any questions?
You need a motion?
Yes.
You had one.
Oh, you had one. Yeah.
And then
Any other
we're on
questions?
discussion.
Yeah. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Next up, we have a federal aid project in the town of Greenwich. It's Safford Hill over Fly Creek. It's a bridge replacement job. So
In the village, Chautauqua East. Safford Hills in the town of East, but it's in the village. I'm just.
It's right, it's right, it almost touches
That's between
74.
the village and
Yes.
Easton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Into it.
Okay,
74 ends in the town of Easton and never makes it to Green.
All right, so it's in the illustrious town of Easton,
I like that better.
but you cannot get there from Easton. Is that a true story?
No,
Yes, it is, because.
the other end of
not-
Safford Hill Road, the church keeps open and everybody drives it.
Well, people
from
drive
Rock
it, but I don't know if we can
But-
get a detour there, so.
I'm gonna it's your show, I apologize for.
Don't pass.
so you need,
So I need a resolution and a budget amendment to do this.
How big is the project?
The design is $337,767.
So it's a large one. So
Yes.
it's a capital project.
It's capital project, yeah.
Gotcha.
And the local funds are $16,888.35.
So are we getting that money from Easton now?
Yes.
sounds like you
I
volunteered.
know, you wanted it. I'll move back.
Thank you, Cassie. Do I have a second? Thank you, Tim. Any questions, discussion,
I have clarification.
clarification, please?
So there's two parts to this. One is the 121 and one is the 221. So it's 363,724. So that is 26,000. And the local funds for Easton is 18,186.
Your Mercedes grant or not?
That's,
Goes
so
to that.
the beauty of the new projects that we do now is they put the Marcelli up front, so we don't have to float it. So that's why that is our 5%.
Don't get excited. She doesn't mean the cash.
Oh.
She means the 15%.
So
Frank
the
got
fig-
happy for a minute.
Oh, that sounds so good.
So the figures you give us is what we gotta pay.
Yeah, you get
Eventually.
total project,
So-
80% federal, 15% state, which you guys all call Marcelli, and 5% us.
And those, that 300 something is our 5%,
No, the 18,000.
18,000.
And that should be the last bridge that you have to deal with after I broke, I think.
Oh,
Any other questions?
Are there any more?
Scott, all those in favor? Aye, opposed? Motion carried.
Next up, we have Warren Street plowing. So as I understand it in a nutshell, DOT was doing a project, they put up a detour and it sent people around, but a lot of people went over Warren Street. So now there's some. What's the word
There's
for
a
it?
disagreement.
A
I will-
disagreement.
I will use the diplomatic term
Because I'm not gonna
between the
go-
town of Queensbury and the village of Buffalo Falls, and they're trying to drag us into it and to a certain degree Warren County.
Would you like to explain the agreement then?
Well, I'm
Or
not so
I
sure.
should say the disagreement.
I'm not going to, I'm not sure, well, in the village of Hudson Falls' estimation, they believe they have found a boundary line which does not run down the middle of Warren Street, but that it runs slightly to, if you were looking at it from River Street, looking up towards Boulevard, slightly to the right side, so that there is a quote unquote, including the road, unincorporated portion of Washington County. We've been going back and forth with the village attorney, who I honestly expected to be here today, until I think when yesterday I said, as part of this agreement, the county's going to expect to be paid for plowing this road, and the response I got was, you mean DPW is not buying that this is an unincorporated portion of Washington County? And I said, we never agreed to that. So at this point, given that they're not here, I'm not sure that there's even going to be any type of agreement sought at this point. As I said, what it comes down to is last year there was a dispute between Queensbury and the village as to who was going to maintain that particular roughly quarter-mile stretch of road. Because Queensbury said they weren't going to do it anymore, even though they get the CHIPS money for the road. Village did it last year, and they initially had asked, well, since we have to plow Boulevard anyway, since it's a county road, would we drop the plow and take care of that? Since we have to go up and back to Boulevard, which we said, we might consider doing that for a year. We're not conceding anything else. We own the road or anything of that nature. And I thought, knowing that I live on Notre Dame, or County Route 41 becomes Notre Dame Street, our plows go down, go back up, maybe for a year, something to do, but we're not conceding anything else. Since I don't see anyone from the village here, maybe since we told them that we're looking to get paid for it, that they no longer find that a viable option. So I guess it'll be stay tuned to see if we get dragged into a litigation, which conceivably could affect the Warren, Washington County borderline from that spot on Warren Street all the way up through the town of Lake George.
So if we're gonna move the line, can we get the Walmart too? I mean, that's, at least that produces money for us.
Sales tax.
Yeah, we're gonna move the line, let's grab that Walmart.
We'll see where it goes. I mean, we've gone back and forth with it at this point. What happens, they go for a declaratory judgment, that can be all well and good, but I know the village of Hudson Falls has some water infrastructure under there that if that road becomes ours, request they remove. And not to mention all the taxes that may have been paid to the village of Hudson Falls for several years, that the landowners may decide they want to get a portion of that. So as I said, it's kind of stay tuned, I guess, at this point.
Dana,
Yeah, as part of that state hearing, what happens to the snow tomorrow?
Not us at the moment.
I get that. Right? Because the reality is we have residents there who don't give a shit. Road is
Who's in charge for that?
plowed. We have to make sure it gets plowed. So who's going to plow it in the short term? We have to seek out a judgment in the short term.
I know the village plowed it last year. Whether they're going to or not this year, my first response would be it's at least half of the road is on the village. It's at least half the village's responsibility, and probably half Queensbury's responsibility.
I agree with what Dana's trying to get to. As a matter of public safety, you got a hill there. Road's not in great shape to begin with.
The residents don't care about what John Stroud.
Who's fighting over it, right.
They want the roads plowed and they want to be safe.
They need to get to work, the school bus goes down there.
And what's interesting is we have the same situation that Warren County pays us with Catskill Bay to go up and get their portion, right?
There's a contract.
We have a
I don't
contract.
know if that's the same situation. I
It,
mean,
it's a little bit of the same situation. They're getting the CHIPS money for that. We go plow it for them, they pay us. So if they're getting the CHIPS money for that, they should come here
oh,
and pay
that way,
us.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
We gotta go over that road to get to our road, so it's
yeah.
logical. We
It's
don't have to
logical.
go over this road.
No, but if they're gonna collect chips on it, and want us to plow it, they should pay it. To me, that's logical.
And also make sure the road is paved and cleaned up because they've received that money over the last 10 years for
Yes.
preservation of that road. Correct?
Yeah.
Say that?
Yes.
But that's when they-
That's kind of where I'm at.
I don't know what they do, they really agree.
All right, so more to follow on,
The audio on? Good.
Warren Street. Well,
All right, next up, we have a grant that we've applied for and received some time ago. That's not new news. But the grant is for brine equipment. And it procures brine equipment for Washington County, Whitehall, and Hampton. So we've got the bids and they are on best value Sourcewell. So we would like to award them, not bids, I shouldn't say bids, it's quotes. But we've got 3 quotes and the lowest one is $100,000. So request approval to go forward with purchasing this to satisfy that grant.
a motion, Cassie, second by John. Discussion? Questions? Yes,
How
sir.
wide is the spread across the three?
No.
How wide is the spread across the 3 bids?
Oh, so there's 100, 109,500 and almost 134,000.
Thank you.
So they were reasonable.
So this was the best value purchase, correct?
Yes.
So we will need a board resolution for this as well.
That's fine.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
I didn't think they were supposed to put that line on their road and that's all.
Oh, is that for Hampton?
Camping does a lot of it.
Does Hampton have paved roads?
No.
We got one dirt road.
Yeah. The Hickey Road's the only road Hampton's got.
Townhouse still got more school.
Do they?
What you wish. I'll give it to you.
Any other business? Oh, we hit the eye.
So the salt bids are in. The last year it was Morton for $70.10. This year it's American Rock Salt for $70.15. And we don't mark up the salt on the state bid, so I don't know. When we got back to me, we don't. But we get
For
cost
options,
plus.
we should.
I'm talking about the reimbursement, that we can talk about it later.
Okay. And then the only other thing is to thank Kevin Hadros and Warren County DPW for letting us borrow one of their temporary bridges so that we could do the bridges on Canyon Valley Road this year, so we returned.
Salt.
Salt?
Motion on the salt.
Nope.
Oh, okay. Good neighbor. right.
Good neighbor, very good.
Hey, Deb, getting back to Safford Hill Road, that bridge, what will you do for a detour there? Out of just,
The designer's working on it.
but they're
Well,
gonna
the
fix.
designer will work on it. We don't do it.
There's an old sawmill in Easton, I think they.
I just don't even wanna live down in that area. The road is closed, this bridge changed, the other bridge changed, it's just a nightmare.
So,
I just wanted to thank the crew. I went up through Canyon Valley. That's great. You know, excellent job. I got out and walked all over the bridges and stuff. It was, looked a little complicated there in the beginning. Somehow you got through it and you did it, and it looks good. I told you, I have to laugh at it. I could walk underneath the bridge, I could walk over the bridge, and there's still water anywhere. But we have bridges just in case. And that's the way it works. You know? That's those mountain bridges, you know, you just never know what's gonna come. You gotta be ready when they do. Thank you very much. Good job.
so, I believe now is the transition into the budget discussion. what I've asked them to do is, she's gonna run through the budget in terms of what she's been able to realize for savings and try and keep budget lines at 2024 levels, or perhaps carve a little fraction of savings out of it based on efficiencies that she's gained. The reality is, we all know costs due to inflation, particularly in staffing, work there, and but also in construction, right? So those materials are not going down. So once we get through the overview, then the budget officer has given our DPW a objective, to try to meet with reductions. As you know, we're still trying to garner some savings off the original draft. And that's gonna get into a discussion of prioritization of projects. And deferral of projects and understanding risk. So what I hope that we get to today is an understanding of that list and get a basic understanding of the risk involved with her proposal for the projects that we're looking to defer and the impact that it has. So we're not gonna get the numbers the budget officers requested without looking at those projects. So that.
All right. So we will start with 1490 in the general fund. It's on page 37. Right off the bat, I'm gonna give you back $2,700 because that should have been 300, not 3,000 for overtime. And I think that should satisfy all of Brian's wishes.
Opening comment was.
Really?
I also have travel plan, which is no different than usual.
Thank you.
The travel plan, there's nothing different than the ones that we usually go to.
Motion to accept the travel plan for DPW, Tim, minutes, seconds. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor? Aye, opposed? Motion carried.
Next up, with you, we have carpool. Carpool starts on page 87.
Polished this rock pretty hard and fast, nice and shiny.
There's not really too many highlights on the revenue. If you go to page 88, we can talk about equipment vehicles, the 2070 line. That's where it's all listed out at the bottom of what we're going to, requesting to buy. One of the things that we found is because we purchased everything for this year's budget and it came in under, we have enough money left over to buy one of the one of the K-9 patrol units for the sheriff. There's about $74,000 left over in this year's budget in that line. So. Was it important to say, can we go
No,
forward with
you're right
that?
on time.
It is not, so.
I think we need the permissions.
Yeah.
A motion to use that existing 2024 budget, or a budgeted number to purchase the K-9 patrol unit for the sheriff.
finance year.
Lance
Yes.
seconds that.
That's for one.
Yeah, that's one.
So it'd be the 63.5 because that's what you'd take out 63.5 of it.
Right, but, we aren't gonna buy two, we're just gonna buy one, I guess.
We buy
One
one
this year.
now and one in next year's budget. The way I understand.
Okay, okay.
That way she brings 63,500 of savings to the 2025 on. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye, opposed? Motion carried.
I can back up a little bit and say we, haven't, this budget didn't really increase. I mean, if you take out the point ones and fringes, it still didn't increase by a couple $1,000. But now we've saved roughly 63,500 hopefully for next year's budget, so we're working towards it.
I don't think that Ryan's buying that map, but okay.
No, well,
Keep
we can
going.
take 63.5 off the amount going to carpool, so. Yeah, it's working
Good.
pretty well.
Until the treasurer breaks your heart,
Thank you, Al. We really appreciate it.
because it needs to come off the appropriate fund balance first, because the appropriate fund balance is more than what last year's fund balance, so we can talk about that after.
Okay. With my insurance package.
Double down.
I thought you said appropriated fund balance. I had to not look at that.
That's a Brian problem, not a you problem. That's why I said it.
Yeah.
Well, it
I don't
sounds,
want you to get concerned about that.
You're doing great.
all these numbers I don't know about. If you look at the page 89, there's not too much difference. Next page it is. There's not a lot of difference in, the lines. The insurance line, has gone up. But that's based on the NYMER increases that were given. Auto fuel is kind of a crapshoot of whether we get it right or not, but based on what we were at for actuals, that went up a little bit. Yeah, that's kind of it for carpool for highlights, unless you have any questions.
Well, in keeping with talking for long periods of time about small amounts of money. It's easy, though. How many easy passes do you get?
So we don't buy easy passes because easy passes cost government money every month. So it's not free like it is for you and me. So we bought easy passes a while ago and then we don't need them. So it wasn't worth it. Now we don't need easy passes at all because it just reads the plate. Amy gets the plate of the bill in the mail and then we pay it.
Weird. It's not really. It's the.
Taking the place of
It's the toll fee.
Yeah.
So if you look at where, are you asking why it went up so much?
No, I was asking if we had a supply that we kept around and passed from car to car or something. How many we actually had to get to make that work.
So even if we wanted to do that, they don't let you, you have to sign it to a vehicle. So it's just so much easier to drive through something you can't even see and get a bill. The reason it's gone up is because the actual amount for this year trended upwards and we're already over budget for it.
Magically, just like that, that line now says tolls rather than easy pass.
Thank you, Al.
I know a guy.
All right.
I saved 2 minutes from that conversation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Al can change that and
Any more questions on carpool?
no, thank you.
All right, let's see what we have next. We have, well, my your thing is county. My thing is county machine. But. Can I go to county machine next?
Yep. Go wherever you want.
I laid it all out that way, sorry. So county machine starts on page 99.
99.
Not too much to talk to, or to talk about for the revenue that I can say unless you have some questions for it. Get down to page 100 is where the 2070 line, that's equipment vehicles.
Yes, ma'am.
So what we put in for this year is, the Joma blades that go on the trucks, the 4 plow trucks, and the mini excavator to replace the backhoe. That brings, that's almost 1.4 million, which is much less, over $350,000 less than last year's asks. So we were trying to keep that low. Now, do we all want to talk about trucks? We all want to talk about the Advanced Clean Truck Act. Because this is going to be kind of weird. You may know a lot about it already. So they're adopting this Advanced Clean Trucks thing. And in 2025, we are Class 8, our plow trucks are Class 8 trucks. So in 2025, the percentage of zero emission vehicles is 11%. So I talked to Navistar about this. If your truck chassis is built in 2024, you do not have to have the Clean Truck Act. You don't have to meet anything. So it starts January 2025. After that, they have to sell 1 electric truck for every 8 fossil fuel trucks that they sell. So, we have ordered 4 trucks in 2023. 3 of them are set to be built in November, and he's trying to get the other one moved in. We also ordered 4 trucks this year. We don't know, I'm working with him on that. Hopefully we can get a build slot for us. So that's where that is. Their approach is at the moment to try to get as many trucks for the states that have mandates while they can. So basically, if you live in Montana and you want a truck, they're gonna push you off until 2025 because they don't have an ACT, which is the Advanced Clean Truck Bill. But if you live in New York, New Jersey, California, Massachusetts, Oregon, or Washington, you're gonna get your trucks built sooner. So we're hoping to get our other 4 trucks in there, but that remains to be seen.
Will this act affect any municipality with their fleet, or is this just manufacturers?
Well, it affects the municipalities inadvertently because the manufacturers have to sell.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, there's no mandate for, like, Washington County have to buy an electric vehicle to compensate for all the other fossil trucks you have.
It depends.
True, true, for now.
For now, but I mean, eventually they're gonna force it that.
Yeah,
Just
just
out of
well, like the
attrition.
school bus issue we just had a little bit while ago. But the point I think Deb was making on this is those trucks will be much more expensive and they're gonna spread the cost.
It's possible that they will.
Spread the cost across a unit price, whether that's a traditional truck or
To make them cost the same.
So with their whole book of business, it's gonna.
so. Well, it goes back to the discussion on why we're having, all right, if we defer purchase. Well, the probability of the cost per unit being much higher next year is great. But we can't guarantee it, but that's why we're having this conversation.
So to make this kind of non-convoluted, if there's 10 trucks sold and one of them has to be electric and it's in the region, you take 9 gas truck or diesel trucks would cost, add in the 10th vehicle, an electric truck. Those numbers total 10 vehicles and you divide that by 10 and everybody pays the same amount. And whoever gets the electric is who wants it.
Kind
So
of anticipating.
that's kind of a weird, that's a weird way of doing business in my book, but if that's the way they go, it's the way they go.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Well, using your analogy, these prices are assuming that it's going to be a diesel truck.
Yes,
And so if this kicks in, even if we get our chassis built in 2024, if they have to build one electric one, it might still increase our cost, correct? Because when we get them next year, they've got to have added that increased cost into the possibility.
Yep.
So these numbers might not be good,
yes, these are diesel
right?
values that were given kind of back when everybody thought, well, they gotta push this off. It
And
can't
there's a high
possibly
problem
happen.
with mobility, it will be more. So I don't know if you should budget more.
No, I'd leave it alone and find out, because I think there'll be a lot of pushback. But I don't know.
Yeah, Dave,
The numbers on the electric trucks are substantial. I think they quoted in the highway luncheon about $600,000 in electric vehicle.
I think that's on the whole side.
And then you need the generator on the back, so you can pull the generator to keep you going.
And how's that generator fuel?
Diesel, solar.
yeah,
So for 2025, the goal for their CEVs is 11%, but it goes up every year. 2026, it's 13%. And this is on the manufacturers. So, you know, in order to sell in New York State, you have to follow these rules. I was told by somebody, I have it written back at my office, I don't remember who it was, that Western Star is just not even gonna sell in New York State because they don't have an option. I don't know if that's true or not, just.
I heard that too, that one, I don't remember which manufacturer, but they were pulling out of New York.
And a lot of the counties buy Western Stars.
Using Dave's numbers at your analogy, it adds 30,000 to a truck.
Oh, I believe it.
And we're not gonna budget.
Mr. Chairman.
My highway superintendent just came back from some meeting they were at. Said that, there was also an issue with the automatic transmissions. The one fully automatic transmission was pushed out like 3 or 4 years before they got that over. And I forget what they call, I understand the ones that you still shift, but don't need a clutch or something, they're making those. But the full automatics, it's out there 3 or 4 years before you get delivery, so that's something I ought to consider too. However, I think what we ought to do is get all the towns and counties together, since these trucks won't even run the hydraulics in the winter. Or the battery's dead, we should build a museum, buy the requisite number of electric trucks and put them in and just all when you put them in the museum, just leave them there. Handle it that way, probably be cheaper in the long run.
Did drive.
We could give the town of Hebron.
So in terms of reduction of the DPW's budget numbers, we talk about long discussions for $150 here and there. This is a 1.4 discussion point. And the question is, what's the risk associated with deferring purchase? And that's what we're discussing. Can we quantify it? Yeah, probably in a percentage like that, but we're estimating that on an assumption. We're not sure where the market's going and the manufacturer with their distribution of cost. But we know the mandate's there. The mandate's not going away. The implementation year, given this current administration in our state, I don't think it's gonna get pushed out.
It's according to whether they actually enforce it or not. They might not enforce it in year 1 or 2, just let you know. But that, they didn't in California enforce it right from the get-go. I think they have started to enforce it now or want to, but I don't know that they did originally. And I don't know that there's a truck that will actually do what they want it to do. The plow ground. I don't know that that's even been made, so I don't know if it'll even be available. So that would also make it a longer route. But right now, the part I worry about not buying trucks is we've been as much, 18 months from when we ordered to actually getting them. So if that ends up becoming 2 or 3 years, it's hard to put off budgeting to buy them, because if 1 year you don't buy, and then the next year it's another 2 or 3 years, you got like a 4-year gap where you might have trucks down that just don't even run anymore. So. You're kind of caught up.
But-
I know the village of Pulte, Vermont got a grant to buy a new loader. And part of that grant was they had to hire a dismantler, came in and actually seized the block up on that loader, the old one, their trade-in, pre-emissions. And they actually junked it right there in the yard, and it was a perfectly good loader to get the grant for the new one.
Sam, you had your hand up?
Yeah, that was my follow up on Nate's, that was my question was gonna be is, what do we do with the trucks that we're going to purchase when we go to the other? I mean, I guess it's one of two ways, the resale value will go up on it because other places may want them, or it's gonna drop right out of the bottom.
Yeah,
There's gonna be nothing there.
that, the resale is gonna be interesting. You know, we're not gonna get back what we thought we were gonna get, or who knows? Yes, ma'am.
It's interesting too, because what we've been doing this for a few years and interest rates being where they've been at, you actually have this money to purchase when they come. And so there is interest amount that's added to this money that really isn't in these figures that help the county budget. I don't know what that amount is, but I bet it's substantial.
Well, think about 10 or 20% in cost, and we're getting 5%, it's not substantial enough.
But I'm just saying that when you put this money aside and hold on to it for 18 months, it does go to interest.
Yeah.
They are.
So the DOT bid for the next round is currently on hold, just to be transparent, because they don't know where DOT is going with theirs. Our budget is for diesel trucks, as Dan pointed out. And there's a new rule coming in 2026 that deals with NOx and emissions. So it's going to be an adventure.
So I'm sensing from the conversation, and I don't want to speak for anybody else. I mean, we want to keep these numbers the same in our budget and.
I would.
Good. All right, so assume no risk on that line.
Can I ask a question, Debbie, do you
Yes.
know if they said anything on what they're gonna say for the heavy equipment, like payloaders and backhoes and all that, when are they gonna enforce that?
That I didn't talk to them about, but I can follow up.
They did every year for that, though, when we did it a couple of years ago.
Well,
Remember that we went through that, they had different years for
I knew
different
about the one for
things.
the truck, but I hadn't thought about it.
Got right down to skid steers and, yeah, they had every different level.
my cheat sheet doesn't have the stuff like that on it.
I think, Brian, it goes right down to 26 horsepower. I think that's the cutoff.
No kidding.
Well,
Dave?
This morning I noticed an article talking about a new technology for diesel trucks, convert them to run ammonia.
See if that happens.
Yeah, that won't be any problem at all with the,
Yeah.
you guys remember the anhydrous ammonia stuff? I was running around.
It makes me almost as old as you, because I remember it.
They retrofitted a 2018 Freightliner. Tested out.
Run around hydrogen, where do you get it?
So in this budget for county machine, we're down about 400, over 400,000 for the, compared to last year.
Thank you for that, Deb.
And any more questions on any of the numbers on the 0.4s? There's nothing too
Is it
big
cheaper to
there.
buy a man basket than a person basket?
Well, Jimmy
The
one
invented
is,
value.
that's Jimmy's.
Would it be cheaper for a woman basket?
Yes.
Then make it more
You guys are getting off the rails now.
Do they have any questions about it?
Yeah, fixate on the personal basket, person basket.
So next up, if you have no more questions, we can go to D. D is county road, and that starts on page 89. Well, kind of 90. 89 is a number that. doesn't affect me. So, I don't think there's anything too exciting about the revenue. It's just we don't have enough of it, I guess. Try. First, sub account in county road is sign shop on page 92. There's not really any significant changes there.
How is our sign man doing?
He's coming back in a couple of weeks, so we're hoping he's coming back. Okay, better. He looked good when they went up there, visited him.
Yeah, I've been talking to him, and he's gonna be off his antibiotic. So he's dying to get back to work. Doctor won't let him.
Good at what he's good at making signs.
The next one is admin. If lines look different and you wanna talk to me about them on admin, I can. What we did was we changed some stuff around. We changed where all the telephones come from. We changed where all the office supplies come from, and that's why those have increased. So you'll see reductions in other lines that had stuff like that. So that's the difference in those. The next account we have is our engineering department. And there's nothing significant in there. Maintenance. Maintenance is on page 95. This is where we buy culverts, pay for machinery rentals. That's not a tremendous amount of change on there as well.
Most of those personal services which you can't control.
Yeah, that's true, like over $300,000.
Yes.
Personal services and health insurance and
Right.
and pensions are just. They are what they are.
So the department's actually down if you took those into
Yes.
consideration. Thank you.
That's a good point, thank
I
you.
get, I have a question.
No, thank you.
Go ahead, John.
Of the large tools and equipment, there was nothing in that line. It went from 17,000 last year, this year.
So what where is, what is it called? Small tools?
Miscellaneous large tools and equipment, 95.
5110-2290. Right in the middle of 95, or the first paragraph. Second paragraph. You dropped it from 17 to 0,
So,
but that was
What
an amended
happens-
budget number anyway.
yeah, so what likely happened with that is, there's certain rules for certain accounts. 2070 is to buy vehicles, equipment. And 2290 and 2090, there's different rules on that as well. One is over 2,000, one is under 2,000. It's likely, as I recall, that we had something in a wrong line last year,
Okay.
and that's why it was moved into the proper line.
So why does Al even have that line there?
He doesn't know
To
that.
confuse us.
Keep you on your toes.
You're sharp.
Job security, Jeff.
Okay.
Somebody's gotta understand it. Yeah, Charlie.
Yes, I have a question on machinery rental. What is the typical type of machinery we rent? Is it unique that we can't own it?
So this is a good question for, because I was gonna have to bring that up is, so county machine and county road. County machine owns the trucks, county road uses.
So it's interdepartmental.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So county machine.
We pay ourselves.
Yes, we
No
pay, So
Where
when
have you been hiding? He got it at the first meeting. Come on now.
So if that, it's interesting because if we cut a project, it affects another fund as well. But also we rent excavators in the summer and rollers for paving. That's a whole different thing.
Is that a
Should that
different
be a
line?
different line?
It is
They
a
are.
different line.
Okay.
Yep,
good.
it is different. So if you see where it says machinery rental 4210, that is us charging ourselves.
That's the one I was
so to
looking
speak.
at.
Contract expenses. 4040 is where we send out a bid early in spring for machinery that's just a couple of lines up above that contract expenses. That is where, the rental of excavators to put our big culverts in. We had to use, cranes to put in some of our larger culverts this year. And if you watch our Facebook page, you get to see them.
Thank you.
Yep. Any more questions on maintenance? But we have our, road projects.
All right, this is where it's gonna get in.
I'll pass out the road project list.
So, Mr. Chairman, Argyle doesn't have a lot there. You're good. Your fear was, you were all there. These prioritized,
No, they are, numberized.
numerized,
Not numerized.
like county route, okay. Yeah, just, these are not prioritized. They're listed by county route. So don't get nervous. Yeah,
So normally, traditionally, I should say, we put in for exactly what our chips is. And this year we asked for more, so we'll be cutting $500,000 out of this one. Because traditionally, I don't know, should we have the supervisors arm wrestle over who cuts what out? Or, I can see Whitehall, Argyle here. Maybe Granville, Whitehall.
Well, that's Granville. See, that's the problem.
No, that's a location. It starts a half-mile north of there and goes to Hatch Hill
Half-mile north of the mud boggers.
on Mudbog
Yeah.
Town Line.
I know where
it's up
you're
by
at.
Milk Can somewhere,
And
at
it-
Hill intersection.
Yeah,
And then it goes south to Hatch Hill,
Yes. No, north,
north, north, so that'd be coming down over the cement barracks and down the road.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, up past Scribner's old farm.
that's right on the line.
Are you offering that project up for savings?
I can't do that.
Oh.
There's a lot of work to be done on the road even before it's paved. And that's my favorite spot on that corner where I preached for 7 years about somebody's going in the middle week if the road doesn't.
Okay. I don't think your road's that bad. Had shown to the Smith Bridge, is it?
No, but it's from Ayers is up
Yeah.
down through isn't bad.
From the bridge all the way to Hatch Hills horrible.
Well, the guys have a program that they go out and they rate the bridges every spring, or not bridges, the roads. And they went to Cornell local roads for this. You have it in yours as well. So it takes the, I don't think this is as bad as that out of it. It takes the subjectivity out of it, I guess. And they have identified these as the roads that most are at the top of the list. On the other hand, we don't have enough money to do all of them, so.
Our guy else got 3, they gotta drop one, right?
Yeah, man, one the past 3 years, you gotta get them all.
Yes, Dan.
Doesn't look good for the chairman after 3.
Hey, Deb, I just want to have this clear in my mind what we're talking about. This is 500,000 over chip money.
Yeah, pretty much.
So basically, we're cutting one of these so we get it back down to chip money. Is that what you're saying?
Likely, yes.
Yeah, we're trying to get there.
Now, is there any way that if these, all the roads were rated or scored, there's a score? What, is it the lowest score is the worst or the highest score?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, whichever way it was, if you took the one that of the 10 that was the best and say that's the one that gets kicked out and none of us know which one that is, there'd be a fair way rather than to point to a supervisor and say, listen, you're low on the totem pole, we're kicking your road off. But if you did it strictly by score, it's done professionally.
I prefer the Lord of the Flies type.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to come up with a solution that it's not gonna be.
No, that's it. That is a metric to use. Absolutely.
Yeah, really,
I think the score is a good idea, but we would want to look beyond the score to see if we don't do this one this year, how much will it cost us in 2 years? Because the lowest score may never cost more. But if the high scores can drop out, double in 2 years, because
Yeah,
they
no,
decay,
good point.
we're gonna end up paying more.
Yeah.
so that's a
Well,
good,
go ahead.
so that's a good, observation because we don't necessarily attack the worst roads first. We're trying to keep our good roads good. We've been, developing this program. We're all being trained actually next week for 3 days on a new program that's free. That helps us to do preservation treatments ahead of time. So you're gonna find a lot more of the, well, this doesn't look so bad. But because of the program, it'll show you when you should do what treatment on it so that you can save the most money in the long run. It's called the PPRA, pavement preservation, something.
Dan.
Yeah, which one do you want out? Why don't you tell us which one you want to throw out?
Oh. We will probably take 49 off, and 49 is one of the worst roads, but 49 is eligible for federal aid. It's just that the federal aid process takes so long, I think the road is gonna, it's gonna be in really bad shape. So we're gonna have to do, we may have to do a lot of maintenance to keep that or even get it back to where it should be. So it'll probably be 49.
Good question, Dana. Thank you, Al.
Ukraine road.
So to-
Money quick.
To Deb's earlier point, this road project list that she gave you is the materials costs only. So whatever one you pick to not do, she also is gonna have to adjust the personal services and equipment rentals associated with that project,
Yes.
which has an impact on the road machinery fund. So there's, I just wanna make sure we remember there's
Trade-off.
ripples after we throw this rock in the pot.
So if we take 49, her recommendation, then that leaves us extra money to do those other things. I mean, I guess looking at this.
Or to at least stay within the chips.
Stay within
Right, so-
chips, or if we do garner the savings, I don't know, but if budget officer would be probably happy to make that happen.
How about,
I
so
gotta
it's 3.2 miles. So if it's 3.2 miles, like, can you do 2 miles of it? You know, I'm trying, we're looking at not saving the whole.
I think we can do a pretty good job of getting down to the chips money, but if you all wanna come and help us out, that would be great. You know what I mean? If you all wanna pick one, that's fine too.
No, but that one's far more than the 500,000. That's what I'm asking. Is there a way to do a part of it?
These are estimates.
Right.
We may have to change these and add a different road come springtime because things change as well. This is our best guess.
These are, estimates for apples, grinding all of them,
Doing whatever treatment we've identified, yes, a lot of them are probably gonna
All the
be full
same?
recycling, probably. Actually, yes, they are all coal recycling.
I would ask that we not worry about the details of that number. Let, it's gotta go back into the calculator.
Right.
and spend, and then once, the numbers come out, there may be a rebalance, and allow Dad and the budget officer and Al do the rebalance, because we don't know the second and third will right back. So, if you want, you don't want.
We're getting all excited over it now.
That's right, but because it's 800 and, I'm sorry, yeah, it's 800. We're only looking at 500 to get down to chips, but. All right,
I had it up earlier.
sorry, Dan, go ahead.
We've been lectured before you were here. I mean, back when Bob was here on messing with cutting money in a desperate year and the highway. And now how much have we saved already in highway this morning in public, you know, and we've knocked off almost $500,000, haven't we? You've moved and transferred and all this. I think we're close to $500,000. Now you're asking her to go another $500,000, so you're saying you want to cut this by $1 million, this department. You're throwing all the weight onto our roads, and that's what we hurt
I haven't
ourselves
seen
with.
a 500,000 yet. Maybe somebody has.
Well, no, but you transferred money, yeah, you transferred quite a bit of money into this year. The sheriff's department, you helped save money there by buying patrol cars.
63,000.
Yeah, that's not 500,000.
No, but you've been doing it steady since we started, and I'm just
I don't
making
think
the
I've got
point,
100,000.
do we wanna hurt our infrastructure that bad? Cause that's what we're doing, we're hurting our infrastructure.
I think.
I mean, and I really want, not that I'm opposed to any of this, I'm just saying we wanna be careful what we do.
Yep.
The highway is the most important, that's all. And I mean, and I don't
You bring
know,
up a really good point, because the other day when we bought cameras for the jail, for instance,
Mhm.
to me, 5% of the county will benefit from cameras at the jail. 100% of the county benefits from our roads,
right?
but we don't look at those priorities. So it would be nice if we could look from those priorities as who benefits the most. But there's money goes anywhere and everywhere for things that it probably never should go, but it's where it's located. So I like what you're thinking, but we haven't saved anywhere near $500,000 in this budget. Just hasn't happened. I don't know where you want to be at the end of the day when I present the budget. But right now, you're at $6.5 million of fund balance, about. And if you were there, in about 2 years, you'll be to about 15 million of fund balance. Just the way things look right at the moment. I don't think we want to be there. I would rather make some cuts or deferred some type of maintenance or something to not put us in that position. If the board doesn't feel that way and they're willing to roll the dice, I'm willing to come up with something that does that. But I just think we need to be a little conservative here, because we can get in a lot of trouble. Whereas today, we're in very good shape financially, but next year is a whole different story.
I'm gonna go back to the chairman and then
I kind of wanted to go off what Dan and Dana both said in different contexts. And it has to do with, you know, safety of our people and everything. I think that's what we're talking about with roads, it's not necessarily, you know, how much it's gonna cost us down the road, but what it's gonna do for our people now. From that standpoint, you can maybe look at it the other way, this, County 49, as she talked about, it's probably as much or more traffic. The people commuting from over in Seattle and Cambridge and everything, coming over to work, going back every day, gets that huge amount of traffic. So if that road falls apart, people are gonna see it very quickly, begin to say, hey, you know, I understand why you're, you know, what the budget impacts are. Or somebody will get hurt, that'll be the other side of it. There's two ways of looking at it. Do you try to fix it to make it good for as many people as possible, or do you try to let as many people as possible see what problems we're having? Seriously.
Dave, you had.
So I want to go back a few years. And back in, we had serious budgetary and financial problems back in 2008, 2009, 2010. We actually cut the number of miles that were paved back down to 5 miles. We should be paving, I can't remember, Deb, somewhere around 22 miles to keep a good cycle. Is that correct? Am I
Yep.
remembering correct? So over the years, we kept on increasing. But what were we increasing to? We were increasing to inflationary prices. And I don't think we have caught up to the roads we didn't pave back then. And it's led to several roads, like I remember 18 and 21. Remember, you were here when we did 18, 21? We had one budget price for it, they got into it, and the cost of doing that road doubled. I don't remember the exact figures, so you need to catch. There was a lot of tires, yes, and there was some other damage to cars like underneath, and that's because, well, it doesn't matter what. Remember, we're not really saving money here. We're kicking the can down the road for more expensive later. Maybe get some federal funding, hope so. But we have to remember, these are serious times, like what Bob pointed out. Everything we do is for our residents. Highway affects 100%. Maybe it's time to think about how we approach this budget and different things and what the other options are to do, which no one really wants to talk to, but sometime we're gonna have to address it. We cut this, next year, we're looking at cutting, well, another 100,000, another 2 miles of road, kicking the can down the road. We need to stay at that 20 or 22 miles per year, so we don't make roads worse. We don't cost them more, we don't make it more expensive to pave them. Which, you know, we did it for maintenance in this building, we did for maintenance on some of our town barns. We're repeating the same issue.
Well, that was my design, let's be honest.
Well,
That
yes,
was my design long before I got here.
yes, I understand that.
So
I
that,
understand
because we knew they wouldn't fit today's vehicles.
But now we're catching up on that price we're paying for. Highway barn 7.7, build a 10 bay in Kingsbury, what, 1.8, 1.9, 7.7 for smaller bays. So we really have to think about our, you know, we can't keep kicking things down the road because it just goes back to price. We're gonna have to find solutions and they're not gonna be pleasant solutions. So we have to find those solutions.
Thank you. I gotta go to Jim, sir.
Of all the calls I get from my constituents about roads, I get much more from 49 than any of them. Constantly complaining about the condition of the road, potholes, having to go around in the opposite lane and so on and so forth. That's number one. Number two, delaying infrastructure repairs. Reiterating what Dave said, it catches up with you and all of a sudden you're gonna be so far behind and the roads are gonna be in such terrible condition. And then last is, what we're talking about is trying to stay within chips will pay us. I think we have to face the fact that we have to put some money in each year. Keep up.
Thank you, Jim. Yes, ma'am.
Driving back and forth where you like all the time. There are always people working, so you're putting money into it anyways, and that is costly too. Okay, and it is a windy curvy road that is used by everybody, all different size vehicles, and it is has got some big needs, and I was curious, when you said federal aid, there could be potential for federal aid money, would that potentially be in next year's budget? Or would it be?
The way federal aid works, the whole process, because there's so much involved, it takes years to get things going. 37 that we're paving right over here, but going, started, I want to say at least 3 years ago. So
Could this project still qualify if we put it into next year's, and would you work towards getting it money back?
yeah, to federal
You have
aid.
to qualify
doesn't work
first,
like that.
right?
That's
Yeah,
what I was wondering.
So we could put this into, it is on our plan to put it into federal aid, but we've identified it as it probably can't wait that long. And like you said, there's gonna be a lot of work done to it in the meantime. So that is an option to wait for 3 years. But we'll reevaluate all of it. You know, it's possible we could take some of it. We could take some of 46 off. We can, you know, if we have to give up some money to meet the budget.
Thank you, John.
Each and every one of us here, when we do our budgets and our paving, go by how much CHIPS money we get. Now we're set here at the county. And we aren't gonna go by what we get for CHIPS money. I think we have to reevaluate what she's got listed here, and do what we can with the CHIPS money.
All right, well, the next
Because
meeting,
all of us do it at our own budget.
yeah. So can I offer
know
that
we
maybe the
can.
next time we meet, Dad can bring back to us a different set of metrics, right? The metrics based on the evaluation of the road and maybe the list.
The only problem with that is I have to have it 3 weeks in the budget. So
Well,
Deb and I will meet and we'll find a way to get there. The biggest problem I have with federal aid, state aid, they're both broke and I don't want Washington County to be broke too. That's what I'm looking at. So federal aid that used to take 3 years might now take 10 years. So I'm just trying to keep us solvent, not because I can't depend on the federal government or the state government. When states take in our money out of DMV daily instead of monthly, they aren't in a good way, or they wouldn't be doing it. So that's my concern.
But we're gonna go Jim real quick. and then-
I just wanted to correct you, John, and in which we do budget money over and above CHIPS.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
We do it these two too.
Dave, you had one more comment?
Everybody
I'm just
else,
gonna go back to,
we're poor up there.
I just wanna go back to the same situation, 2008, 2009, we began with here. The supervisor said 0% increase, 0% increase, 0% increase. Then went 30 and 40%, or was it 30 and 25?
Yeah, something like it.
So the more we kick things down the road, the more we're gonna have real issues. We have bad issues now, but real issues, so we have to deal with those issues now somehow. You just can't keep on kicking things down the road like we have done.
You said that, what's your solution? That's saying, down the road, which is.
You need to talk about. What do we look at 8% increase? Do we look at other types of severe solutions in dealing with the budget, cutting percentages? We break the tax cap. Those are all things on the table. She can talk about.
If they're upset over the road, you bring that cap and we'll see all upset they are.
But you're gonna get through it somehow, right? Because if you keep trying to squeeze under it and using the funds.
You have to
balance, you're
prove to
gonna
them that
end
you
up
at
like
least
you
made an
were
effort.
years ago. Well,
If
we
you-
are making an effort. If anybody's watching.
They
this,
don't see that.
But I don't think what you're gonna do, I think, I'm afraid, is you're gonna end up in a few years being in the position you were back in 09, 010, or wherever it was, where you were laying people off and we were in desperate shape. I think living in fund balance and not looking at the option of a percentage of partial override, you're just setting us up for that again. I mean, I think you really have to look at the numbers. What is a 1%? You go over by 1%.
Yeah.
Without,
Maybe Al had he need to make a comment.
I just wanted to be completely clear that the county does put $800,000 worth of tax money into the road projects. When we say CHIPS level, we're talking about the materials line only. Taxpayers pay for all the point ones, fringe and equipment rent. So the county does have $800,000 worth of skin in the road project game. I don't want you to think that we only do CHIPS money. That when we talk about the CHIPS level, it's only that materials line. We kick in $800,000 on top of that already. So if there is taxpayer money already, we have skin in the game above CHIPS now. And I just want to be clear on that. When she says CHIPS level, she's talking about just the materials line.
But you still have to pay the guys to work, so that's not an additional cost, right?
Right.
And it's,
They have
and
to
the
be doing
machinery
something.
rental, they're still using the machinery.
Right.
But we
We're
have to
just-
raise taxes to raise that money regardless of.
Right, regardless of whether it's in roads or bridges or maintenance or.
So there's a relationship there, but we do have skin in the game above CHIPS.
But we can't cut that even out.
And the realization of the tax cap was that you had to go to the cap to sustain because your costs were going up faster than you could tax for. But just a couple of years ago, I had $1 million in there and we decided to go to zero. That $1 million is just $1 million we're trying to cut. That, it's not my design or my want to tell you that, but it's that lack of seeing that every year. You have a good year and everybody says, oh, we go to zero. Well, this is how we get there. If you stated the cap, this wouldn't be the situation. But I can't change that.
So, also near and dear to our heart are our bridges. So we just passed out the bridge list that's, on the 2025, in the 2025 budget right now. Deb? Anything you want to say about the bridge list?
So bridges, this is what we have for bridges. We tried to get a grant for painting the covered bridge, for painting the covered bridges, and actually for putting a roof on the Jackson Salem, Rexley. No, Jackson Salem, the other one, Eagleville. That one needs a roof. So we're trying to work on that. But this is our list. These bridges don't have red flags yet, but we don't want to get to that either. So, one bridge, the River Road one, has been cut down to 1 lane for years now. And it may be able to be deferred, to be put down to 1 lane again. There's a long, well, there is a, what's that word? Yeah. Detour.
When you refer to large culvert, is that like what you put on Chamberlain Mills? Is that-
It could be, yep. You saw this summer that they were all different shapes. The Chamberlain Mills one kind of looked like a little house. The one up on County Route 45 was very long, 130 feet long, but it was round. It wasn't.
Yep.
And some of them are oval, but a lot of what is dictated here comes from DEC new regulations.
Any questions about bridges? Culverts? Al?
Deb, I apologize if this is a stupid question, but I went on tour this weekend and got to enjoy the trifecta of covered bridges. The Buskirk Bridge, for any of you that follow me on Facebook, I'm surprised I didn't get blasted with comments that your photos from the Rensselaer County side. I know that. But my question to you is, do you think there's any kind of partnership that we could have with Rensselaer in helping with the cost of
I
this
could look
project?
into that.
Just because maybe they would be willing to share in the rehabilitation.
On your other comment, doesn't that mean that Washington County was totally in the background? So you got
So
to see more
I
of
was
Washington
looking
County?
forward into what.
Yeah, you were looking into Washington.
Yeah.
County.
No, that's a good point. I'll check with him.
Just,
Thank you.
we're going to say no, right? I mean-
Do they have $100,000 drone that can paint? Because of the paint wouldn't cost 100, so if you had $100,000 drone that could paint, you'd have it for the next bridge.
All right, next,
Because that seems like an awful price for painting.
They have them for spraying fertilizer.
Yeah, so I'm thinking there should be a drone that could paint that thing.
We don't have one.
We have a drone, but I don't know if it paints.
We've got 7.
Yeah, but I don't know that.
I can't imagine if one of them could paint.
It's probably gotta be a little
They
heavier.
can
and a
all
little
pay,
more
it can
precise.
take a paintbrush. and they run it back and forth.
any more questions on
Bridges?
bridges?
Sue wants to know if you can get historical preservation for the paint work inside covered bridges.
Historical.
How come we
Historical
have besides
preservation to pay for part of.
Oh, Jimmy has worked really hard on trying to get a grant for this, and he was told no. But he's gonna go back and try again at a different level, not at a, will you paint all 3 of them?
You look at this and then like, AAH. They have to do that.
Yep.
But there's a piece of, you don't realize how much tourism these covered bridges bring to Washington County. It's really actually shocking how many people will drive. So maybe that might be another.
Part of the problem is he's not.
Reach up there, he puts it okay.
I don't know about.
It's the TV.
Oh.
Now they have a road.
So, there's 2 other things to go over, county snow and state snow. There's nothing's really changed much on counting snow. We did put down, we did reduce the salt. Because our brining is working really well, so we took some money out of salt. If we hurry really quick, we have 6 seconds before the TV turns.
Any questions for Deb on the budget? Okay.
Goodbye.
And if you ever have any that come up, just reach out and meet with you.
So with that, is there any other business for, Public Works?
Finance, maybe.
Okay, any other business for Public Works?
Well,
Last statement, okay, well,
I just wanted to be clear, when it was all said and done, was the board in agreement with cutting $500,000 out of the paving project or not? Cause it sounded to me like nobody supported that idea. So I'm just, we want to make sure it's a clear message to Brian what we want.
We're gonna get different numbers.
yeah,
So what's the question? Or answer?
Always 1% of the budget, we bust the cap by 1%. How much money is that?
$370,000.
There's 270,000, I know, by 130. 500,000.
So how many people support passing the budget for busting the cap? I mean, if we don't have support for that, it can't do it anyway.
But I think if you do a 1%, it's gradual. Most taxpayers would rather have a little bit now and a little bit later and a little bit next than they would be get kicked with a 10% when you're in a big problem.
I agree with that. I'm just asking, if there's no support to override the cap, I can't go that route.
Well, somebody making, I've done this for, how long we had the cat?
Then I do
10
it.
years?
2012.
I do it, I make
Every
everybody
single
at it.
year in Argyle, I have passed a law to bust the cap. We never have. I just like it, we got a paragraph in the bottom that says, and by the way, we wouldn't have to do, you even consider this, it wasn't for all the stupid state mandates. And if we passed a local law to bust the cap, I'd love to have that in the bottom. I've brought it up every single year since 2012 to do it here. For exactly the same reason, just to wave the flag and say, who the hell do you think you are? To tell us what our tax cap is when you're dominating our budget. But no one's had the stomach to do that up to this point. I personally think somebody ought to make a motion to, you know, introduce a local law and see if it goes. And if it is, I'll be glad to write it for you. With that paragraph in there.
Yeah, it comes out of finance committee, if we wanna make that motion, I'll make that motion. I have broken the cap in 40 and it's given us a lot of wiggle room for future years out, because we did that, because we got so tight, because of budgets in the past, that you just couldn't function. And it's not, you're not penalized for it, okay? Yes, in the voters' eyes, we're penalized for it, but the bottom line is that we're here, we're talking about safety and those types of things that we're talking about, we may have to do that. So I will make that motion.
Okay, so I got a motion from
And
Sam,
I'll
second
second
by
it.
Cassie.
Because there's also a time element involved, and
Right.
you can't decide later you wanna override it, you should
That's
have the
absolutely
tool in the
right.
toolbox going in, not later.
So any discussion on that?
I got a question. If we do that, we still don't have to break the cap, even though we got.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Correct.
It's a tool in the toolbox, because you
pre-authorized.
can't do, it's after is a pain, you need it ahead of time, so that's how.
Check. We did in Putnam this year.
And when you override the cap, the only thing that I'm aware of, but there could be more, you lose money on raise the age, right? Remember the state wrote that into the law. I don't know if there's other ones, we haven't figured that out yet.
That's if you actually break it.
If you actually break the cap.
Passing the law doesn't have any effect.
Right. So, all in favor of? I guess we're not overriding the cap, but it's not in motion to override the cap. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
There's no further business for the public works side. Any further business for the finance side? I have one final statement. I did purchase insurance. It's in the form of food. It is located right over
Right
here
there.
somewhere, right there. So,
Look at that.
Oh, is that why it sounds like pizza?
yeah.
Hey, we're adjourned.
We are adjourned for pizza.
Hey, guys.